Hi, my name's Ali Eakin. I work as a presenter and as a commentator for BT Sport and for the BBC. And for the last 20 years or so I've worked behind a microphone and more recently as well in front of a camera. I've delivered countless pieces to camera, lectures, speeches, and you will no doubt have been to lots of lessons at school, lectures at university, awards ceremonies, speeches and presentations of various different kinds, and you've probably at various different moments been bored to death by them. So I'm trying to give you a few helpful hints as to how to make your presentation lively and engaging, fun if possible, but most importantly, memorable. It's really important that you convince us with the content of your presentation, and there are lots of different ways of doing it. And I think it's probably important to state as well that it is a skill that can be taught, it can be learnt, it can be practiced, and hopefully what you're going to hear later on will assist you with all of that. This is an opportunity, and it needs to be seen as such. Positivity, enthusiasm, and upbeat manner, they're all key here. Why are you here? It's all about the promotion of your product, your brand, yourself. I read recently that an amazing 93% of communication is non-verbal. First impressions really do count. Think of an interview scenario. Your potential employer has usually made up their mind about you within a few seconds of you entering the room. Why do parents teach their kids to look people in the eye and offer a firm handshake and be friendly? Because it works in helping people to like us, to treat us well and with respect. Apparently 55% is body language, so what you do with your hands, how you sit or stand, the eye contact you make or lack of it, the facial expression, demeanour, confidence. And the other 38% of the 93 is made up of your tonality, so by that I mean the tone of your voice, your accent, the clarity, and of course the volume, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on. I think you need to dress appropriately as well. If you don't want to be seen as a geeky scientist, don't dress as one. Choose your clothing according to the situation. Maybe it's the kind of occasion where a suit would be expected, but if it isn't, would an open neck shirt be better and less formal? Smile! You love your job, you're passionate about it, you're brilliant at it. No one has the knowledge base and the expertise that you can offer, so show how much you love your work. People who are bored of their job are very, very good at boring others about it. You have to try and engender in the audience the same love and passion for your work as you have yourself. Help them understand why you're driven to do the things that you do, to work as hard as you do. I've had to learn to smile on camera. Much of my work doesn't seem like it should be accompanied by a smile, but it is so powerful on television, and it's incredibly powerful standing in front of an audience face to face. You have to get them on side at the outset, so smiling and acting as relaxed as possible will do that. It's a small trick, but it does work, and you may have to remind yourself to do it. I know I do. Express yourself as well. If you naturally use your hands to emphasize a point, do it. Vary your tone, your pitch, your volume. This is very much my territory. With a dull, monotone voice and no variations, you're pretty much stuffed as a presenter and as a commentator. We use whispering to suck people in on the radio. At Wimbledon, it's an incredibly powerful tool. People lean towards their radios to find out what you're saying. They're fascinated and they're hanging on your every word. We use light and shade in terms of seriousness and fun. We get really excited about really exciting things, and we're more measured about the more regulation stuff. So vary your delivery and vary your position on the stage as well. A little bit of wandering can be good. Tailor your messaging to fit who you're talking to. Keep your answers relevant to who's watching, listening, reading. Who are these people in front of you? What kind of day have they had so far? Or are they having? Have they just had lunch? Do they feel sleepy? Is it 8 o'clock in the morning they're wired for takeoff? Have they slogged around the labs and been walked off their feet all day? It's your job to gauge the mood, just as I have to when I interview rugby players in the tunnel after matches at Twickenham. Some of them are wildly excited, having just won a brilliant match and achieved their dreams. Some are in the depths of despair, having had it all snatched away from them. So I have to think about that before I interview them. Adjust to your surroundings and show empathy for their situation, the people in front of you. Put yourself in their shoes and ask what you would want from this presentation. Preparation is everything. Sir Clive Woodward was in charge of the England World Cup winning side in 2003. One of his favourite phrases was, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. You have no excuses for not doing the necessary homework. How are you going to lay out the relevant information in a user-friendly fashion? Do I need some props? Am I talking to a big screen PowerPoint style? Can I pepper it maybe with audio or video to spice it up, make it more vivid and real for the audience? You have a huge knowledge base, but you have to condense all the salient information into a manageable chunk that people can digest. Simplicity is key. What knowledge can I assume in talking to this audience? The chances are maybe not a huge amount. Of course, you have to strike a balance. It won't help you to patronise your audience, which makes the gauging of the personnel beforehand all the more important. It's always better to assume limited knowledge of your subject matter. That way you can break the information down into easily accessible bites for consumption. Avoid jargon and industry phrases as best as you can. Avoid monikers and in-house descriptions of things. Nothing turns people off quicker than this. Sometimes it might be useful to apply the grandmother rule, i.e., would my grandmother understand this if I was telling her? If she wouldn't, you're not doing it right. So start again. Simplicity is absolutely key, not just for conveying your message at the time, but in allowing that information to stick as well. I have to do this all the time with my commentaries. Rugby's a complicated game. Much of what I talk about is explanatory, but we try and keep it simple, and sometimes that really does mean laying it out in words of one syllable. So when delivering your speech, there's a really important thing that I think you should try to remember, and it's the power of three. So what are the three main messages you want people to leave with from your presentation? Note them down. Start your speech with them, finish your speech with them. They can pretty much afford to forget everything else. We hope they don't, of course we don't. But it must be your goal to ensure they remember those three things. And how do you best convey them? Would it help perhaps to have some simple drawings, some salient facts and figures, maybe testimonials? Think of the different ways that you could impart this information that would be interesting and engaging, other than you spouting forth endlessly. 3 things repeated, 3 things remembered. Why should we believe everything you say? Why should we take you at face value? We have to be given reasons why we believe you, and you have to show us gently your credentials. Display your evidence in a clear, concise fashion. You have to back up your power of 3, your 3 key elements that you would like them to remember. This might mean scientific data neatly presented, it might mean diagrams, it might mean video, it might mean audio evidence. Whatever it is, we need to be convinced. Personalising things makes them real, makes you human, and draws people's interest. So give us a human interest to your element if you possibly can. How long have you been working on this particular drug, for instance? Why is it special? What can it do that others can't? How long have you been waiting to produce a product like this? What's the story behind its production? Did you nearly lose it? Did it nearly all go wrong? Give us some background that we can relate to. Contextualise it for the average Joe. I try to poke this kind of information out of sportsmen all the time when I'm interviewing them, when they're a little bit reluctant. If they recover from a long-term injury, I ask them if they thought they'd ever come back. Did they fear the worst? What did the doctors say? Are they back ahead of schedule? Who helped them through all those dark times? Did they kick the cat every night after rehab? These are the little snippets of information which make them human and help us relate to them. So give something of yourself, even if you feel the presentation is not about you. Whether you like it or not, it's a show of a kind, so give it some welly. Praise for others strengthens you and shows you as a confident, secure team player, and your audience will warm to you as a result. So show off the world-class talent and ability that exists in your team. There's plenty of it. There is absolutely no harm in drawing attention to it. Again, contextualize it. Tell us why it's unusual to have gathered together so many brilliant minds in one place. There are lots of different mistakes that people make when presenting information to others. The most important one of all, I think, is probably the duration. It's very easy to drone on about something you know a lot about. Keep it short, concise and interesting, and it'll stick in the memory. The variety of your delivery is important as well. People often don't think about their voice, their intonation, their volume, their pitch. Keep it interesting or your audience will tune out. You need detail, of course, as evidence, but you have to try and keep it as simple as possible. Your material will be better for it. If you lose some people early, the deeper into the minutiae that you go, the more numbers you'll lose. And jargon, to be avoided at all costs. The people you're talking to won't necessarily inhabit the same world as you on a daily basis, so make life easy for them by explaining what you mean, not talking a language that they don't understand. And there's no excuse for a lack of prep. If you don't prepare properly, you can't expect to deliver your message with clarity and with impact. You wouldn't dream of carrying out your important scientific functions without a plan. Delivering a presentation is exactly the same, and more importantly as well, it'll give you confidence. So to recap then, a handful of things you should really do your level best to try and remember. The first of them is working on the simplicity of your material. Really prepare well for everything you're going to deliver. Secondly, who is your audience? Make sure that you're pitching it right. And remember those power of three. Really important that they go away with those three messages that they're going to remember. Next up, delivering the speech. You've got to try to enthuse us with your material. You need to make sure that your passion is coming through. So smile, breathe normally. It's not a race. You've got all the time in the world to do it, but just try and pitch it right. You've got to try and remember your proof points so that you can convince us properly of the various different evidence that you have. And last of all, if you can possibly, try to tell your story. Try to humanize everything that you're trying to tell us, because it'll convince us and it will leave us with something to go away with.